The collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 90s left the United States as the sole superpower in the world, and it's never looked back.
Right.
In all aspects of the world, the United States is indeed a superpower, especially when it comes to its military might, which is unsurpassable in its strength, technological superiority, operational capabilities, and power projection across the globe.
So guys, if you remember a previous video we did reacting to the actual size of the United States, that video delved into how much is spent on the US military, and the US spends more money on their military than any other country in the world. And I believe there's over 1 million people enlisted in the US military, and out of 350 million people, that's roughly 0.33% of the population. So it's a large military, definitely the strongest in the world, which is good because a strong America is good for the strength of the world as a whole. I cannot wait for the rest of this video.
In this video, we'll take a look at the 5 top reasons why you wouldn't want to go against the US military establishment.
Let's go,
The
baby.
United States Air Force is the strongest in the world,
By a long
not
way.
only in the number of operational aircraft, but also in technological superiority.
Yep.
The country currently operates a total of over 15,000 military aircraft, combining all the branches of the military service, including
crazy.
the US Navy,
That's
US Army, Coast Guard, and the US Marines. As of 2017, the US Air Force alone has a fleet of over 5,300 aircraft, 406 intercontinental ballistic missiles, and 170 military satellites, greater than any other country in the world. The USA has the largest number of stealth aircraft designed to be silent killers and untrackable by the radar defense systems of
Those are
most
beautiful.
countries in the world. Some of these stealth aircraft include air superiority fighters, such as the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, heavy bombers, such as the B-2 Spirit. In fact, the United States pioneered this technology in the 1980s with the introduction of the F-117 Nighthawk stealth attack aircraft. Stealth aircraft are designed to avoid detection using a variety of technologies that reduce radar reflection from ground, sea, or air-based radar antennas, thereby reducing its radar cross-section, or RCS. This revolutionary technology allows a 5th-generation aircraft, such as the F-22 Raptor, with a max takeoff weight of 83,500 pounds, to have a radar cross-section of just 0.0001 meters squared,
That is
about the
nothing.
size of a bumblebee. What's more insane is that the massive B-2 bomber also has the same radar cross-section as the F-22 Raptor. Thus, it becomes extremely difficult to track stealth aircraft. Even if the enemy spots them on their radar scopes, it's a whole other story to successfully track them and register a missile kill. The whole idea behind this technology is to break the chain in which a conventional surface-to-air missile defense system works. It's the same reason countries like China and Russia are also hard at developing their own stealth fighter, the Chengdu J-20 and the Sukhoi Su-57, respectively. These aircraft will allow the US Air Force to assert its air superiority over any battlefield of the future. And we all know that control of these skies is the biggest decider in any war. The next reason...
Yeah, you got to win the sky battle, you got to win the ground battle, and you got to win the oceanic battle. But obviously, the sky is the most important. What I love about that breakdown of the US aircraft is that it doesn't just illustrate the great production that US have by producing the largest fleet of aircraft in comparison to every other country, but the variety of aircraft for different purposes just shows American ingenuity as well, and both are very important. No point of having the largest fleet of aircraft if they all just simply do the same thing, but each one specialized just makes their aircraft power even more immense. Absolutely amazing. Love learning about the US aircraft. Absolutely unbelievable. Let's continue.
The reason why any country going to war with the US military should think twice is because of the strength of the US Navy and its dominance over the world's ocean, especially the Navy's supercarriers. The US Navy currently operates 11 nuclear-powered Nimitz-class supercarriers, which is the largest aircraft carrier fleet in the world.
That is unbelievable that they've got 11 of these things. I mean, these things are massive. I know that the British Navy is also a very powerful navy indeed. And, when I was talking to my friend, I think they only have like 3 or 4 of these things. So the fact that the US have 11 just illustrates their power in comparison to the rest of the world, because the British Navy is also not one to be messed with.
The only navy that can come close in terms of technological advancement is probably the Royal Navy of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
But they only have 2 operational carriers.
So only 2.
The Nimitz class of carriers has a displacement of over 100,000 tons and can carry a complement of up to 70 aircraft. They're literally a floating small town in the ocean with its own airport.
So one of those things can carry 70 aircraft, and he said they have 11 of them. So 11 times 70, 770 aircraft can be held at a single given time if all 11 of those carrier ships are in operation. That is immense.
Nimitz class carriers in themselves are extremely potent offensive weapons, but the way they operate in what is called the carrier strike groups makes these ships even more deadly. A carrier seldom deploys alone. There are always a fleet of surface and underwater assets surrounding them and forming a strike group.
These images are
These
beautiful.
include guided missile cruisers, a destroyer squadron, attack submarines, and other support vessels. Together, they project the power of the carrier and at the center of the group forward towards the enemy.
Can you imagine if you're a nation in conflict with the United States and you see this coming towards you? Oh my goodness, you would have to surrender on the spot. I just love these machines of war. Don't get me wrong, I hate war. I think just like anyone, we hope these machines never get utilized because we want to live in a peaceful world. But we have to appreciate the ingenuity of these machines and how powerful they are for their various purposes. Very, very beautiful indeed. Just look at that image. Unbelievable.
While the carrier is carrying out its offensive role with the use of its air wing, the other ships are responsible to protect its flanks against any enemy attack. This combination of offensive and defensive strategy makes the US carrier strike group almost impenetrable.
Oh yeah.
The United States Navy maintains 9 such carrier strike groups, 8 of which are based in the United States and 1 that's forward deployed to Japan. For over 50 years, this has been the principal element of US power protection, and the Nimitz class of supercarriers are at the center of it all.
Yep.
Despite this, the US is currently in the process of developing a new class of carriers called the Gerald R. Ford class, intended to replace the Nimitz class ships.
Wow.
This new supercarrier will be even more technologically advanced and is expected to continue US dominance of the oceans well into the late 21st century.
Let's go,
The third
baby.
reason why you shouldn't fight the US military is their massive stockpile of nuclear and conventional intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. The ICBM plays the...
I just want to put this out there. I am petrified. I am petrified of a world in which nuclear power is utilized. I mean, that could be the end of us all. But let's be honest, it seems as though the US have the power in that regard. But if that weaponry is ever utilized, oh my goodness, it's going to be a sad day for us all. That is for sure.
ICBMs were first developed in the 1960s as a response to the Soviet nuclear threat.
Right.
Throughout the Cold War and beyond, these missiles have undergone constant modernization. In the last decade alone, the US military has undertaken $7 billion worth of upgrades. The rocket propulsion engines, the propellants used, the guidance system, and even the flight control surfaces have all been refurbished. The upgraded missiles are completely different from its 1960s counterparts, except for the shell. These state-of-the-art improvements and modernization programs have kept the Minuteman III system operational for over 50 years with improved reliability that supports the missile's remarkable 99% alert rate.
And this is what always keeps America on top of their game. They don't just reach that level of contentment, where they're no longer upgrading. No, they're keeping up to date with technological advancements to upgrade their existing brilliant technology. There's no time to stagnate. You always have to keep ahead of the game. And that is why the United States have been ahead of the game for so long. It's very, very important to upgrade your machinery and your understanding of what other countries have as well in order to counter them if something was ever to take place.
The latest versions of the missiles have a range of over 8,000 miles, which is greater than the diameter of the Earth at 7,917.5 miles.
So clearly designed.
They can carry multiple 330 kiloton nuclear warheads, which is 20 times greater than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Not only that, each of these warheads can be assigned to different targets independently. The technology is called Multiple Independently Targetable Re-entry Vehicle, or MIRV, and was first developed for the Minuteman III family of missiles. So any country messing with the United States will have to deal with this awesome arsenal of firepower, which can be launched at a moment's notice. If it weren't the ICBMs or the stealth fighters raining fire down on you, it would be precision-guided munitions, or better known as smart bombs or PGMs instead. This is another big reason why not messing with the US military is a good idea. All branches of the US military use smart bombs in some forms or the other. These weapon systems are designed to be precise and hit a specific target with maximum efficiency. These bombs are so effective that during the First Gulf War, PGMs comprised only 9% of weapons fired, but accounted for 75% of all successful hits.
What? So 9% of the total amount fired were coming from these missiles, yet they accounted for over 70% of the hits. Shows how powerful and deadly these weapons actually are.
Since then, for the US military at least, the days of normal artillery shells and unguided bombs are long gone. Nowadays, the military uses PGMs from air, ground, and sea. Precision-guided munitions come in various forms and use different kinds of technologies to achieve precise hits. A large majority of PGMs use the Global Positioning System, or GPS, of satellites to guide their trajectory to target. However, sometimes this becomes a problem, as GPS coverage is not always reliably available everywhere across the globe, or bad weather conditions can hinder operations. Thus, the Office of Naval Research, the Naval Surface Warfare Center, and the Army Research Laboratory have all coordinated to develop the first ever artillery-fired smart munition that will not use GPS guidance. The project is known as Moving Target Artillery Round, or MTAR for short. The MTAR shell can be guided onto stationary as well as moving targets in both land and sea, using a combination of guidance technology.
Just shows how far we've come as far as the technology regarding weapons is concerned. I mean, if you think back in the day, missiles were not guided. You simply aimed it in a rough direction and you hoped it dealt damage into the area you wanted to hit. But then with GPS, you could pinpoint locations and be pretty accurate. And now you've even got this latest technology that doesn't even rely on GPS in order to not just get specific targets, but can locate moving targets and still hit them. Just shows, again, American ingenuity, folks. They've always upgrading their equipment. If they never did, they'd still have the same, stagnant missiles of the past, but they've upgraded to such a point that it's the most technologically advanced missiles in the world.
The best part is that these shells can be fired from the existing M777A2 155mm towed howitzer and the M109A7 Paladin integrated management self-propelled 155mm artillery systems already in use by the US military. The shells will also feature an extended range of 40 to 60 miles using rocket boosters to propel them.
Wow.
Once finished, it will afford the US military another potent weapon system that outclasses others around the world.
Crazy.
Lastly, the fifth and final reason why you shouldn't fight the US military is drones. We're all familiar with what an unmanned aerial vehicle or drone is and what it's supposed to do. But in recent years, the usability of UAVs are steadily increasing to encompass all spheres of military operations, and the US military is the pioneering spirit behind it. At first, used only for surveillance missions, drones were quickly weaponized after the 9/11 attacks and have been extensively used by the US military in the war against terror as an offensive weapon platform. It's forecasted that over the next decades, the US is in line to purchase over 1,000 combat drones of various classifications. Some of them, like the Lockheed Martin RQ-170 Sentinel and the Boeing MQ-25 Stingray, are already in the final stages of development, and once finished, will provide the US military with state-of-the-art platforms capable of multi-role operations, ranging from attack missions to aerial refueling. Drone technology has reached such heights today that a single UAV can loiter miles above the surface of the Earth for hours, waiting for the target to show its head and sticking with impunity.
You can imagine the great advantage of using drones because you don't need a physical person to be flying inside the drone, maybe simply operating it, from a remote location. So, there's less lives at stake if that drone were to be shot down. So, very, very huge advantages of having these attack drones, that's for sure.
This capability will allow all the services under the US military to reduce its dependency on manned platforms, thereby reducing the risks during future combat operations. These 5 weapon systems make the US military extremely dangerous for any adversary looking to get into a conflict with them. In a conventional warfare setting, it's almost impossible to beat the US military machine.
Absolutely.
That's why modern enemies of the United States are employing more and more asymmetric warfare strategies against the mighty US military. Despite that, the US military juggernaut is hands down the most powerful military complex in the world today, and probably will be for decades to come.
Well, folks, those are the 5 reasons you should not mess with the US military. We all know that the US military is the most powerful in the world, but sometimes it's nice to get that detailed breakdown, as was so brilliantly done by this content creator. I'm just always so impressed, by American production, American ingenuity to always stay ahead of the curve. Absolutely unbelievable. Reacting to these American, videos is probably one of my favorite things to do. So I'm going to keep them coming. If you did enjoy this video, guys, it will be appreciated if you left a like on this video and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date, with any future uploads. But folks, that is all I have for you today. So until next time, I hope you have a good one. I'll see you when I see you. Cheers.